طلابنا الأعزاء السلام عليكم. Our lecture today is the dental laser, presented by me, Dr. Lamis Al-Taee. As most of you know that the laser is come from 5 words: light, amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Basically, the laser is a device that producing or emit light through a process of optical amplification تضخيم ضوئي based on stimulating the emission of electromagnetic radiation. It produced light. What are the properties of such light? It's amplified, مضخم ضوئيا, single colored, energized by special gases, crystals or glasses. All lasers contain 3 fundamental elements. Firstly, the active media, which is determine the type of laser, source of energy that cause excitation of the photons in the active media, and optical resonators in the form of 2 mirrors, one of them highly reflective and the other one a partially reflective mirror. These 2 mirrors make like a wave cavity, which are responsible for the amplification of the light, and then the partially transmitted one permit the transmission of laser beam through it. So it is the lasing media, the optical resonators, and the energy source. The lasing media, it may be in the form of gas, solid, atoms, or ions. The lasers usually named according to the substances of the active media, which, for example, CO2 laser has a lasing media containing CO2 gas. The optical resonator is the arrangement of 2 mirrors that forms a standing wave cavity resonators for the light waves. They are surrounding the lasing media and providing a feedback of the laser light, and basically it consists of fully reflective mirror at one end and partially reflective at the other end of the lasing media. يعني هي المسؤولة عن ال amplification of the lights by feedbacks of the laser light. وأكيد نحتاج إلى energy source، وهذا energy source in the form of electric discharge or high power xenon flash lamps or even another form of laser. إذن هذه main 3 components of every laser، اللي هو active media اللي هي تحدد نوع الليزر، اللي ممكن تكون gas، ممكن تكون crystals، ممكن تكون glass. وعندنا excitation energy اللي يسوي excitation للphotons. تتحرك الphotons between 2 optical resonators that making the optical wave cavity اللي يساعد بالamplification of the light. One mirror is fully reflective، ساعد بالfeedback and amplification of the light. The other one is partially reflective that permit the transmission of the laser light. The main properties that distinguish laser from the wide ordinary light are listed down to be used usefully in medical and dental uses. Firstly, we can see that the laser light is collimated beam and have a parallelism, unidirectional, while in the ordinary light it's more divergent, it's not parallel. For the color, the laser have single color, so it's called monochromatic beam, while in ordinary light it's polychromatic. It means many layers, many colors, sorry. The waves are coherent in laser. It means have identical amplitude and frequency in space and time. ونقصد بالcoherence هو التناسق. Okay, well, it is not coherent in the ordinary light. For more details, the monochromatics mean that the light produced by the laser light have only single color and single wavelength. هنا انه يعتمد الويف لينث على نوع الليزر، وبالتالي الليزر يحدد نوع الليزنج ميديا. The laser light produced by a particular laser device will be of characteristic wavelength. هنشوف أنواع مختلفة من الليزر. Everyone have certain wavelength باعتماد مثل ما قلنا على الليزنج medium. If the light produced between 380 to 780 nanometer or simply between 400 to 700 nanometer فراح يكون within the visible spectrum. أما إذا كانت البيمز أقل من 400 نانومتر فراح تكون within the ultraviolet region which is invisible, or above 700 reaching to even 10,000 nanometer as in CO2 laser تكون falls within the infrared region. فإذا هو في كل الحالات have single color single wavelength، لكن الويف لينث اللي يحدده هو نوع الليزر، وبالتالي نوع الليزر يحدد نوع الليزنج ميديا. فبرودي لكن في كل الأحوال هي having single color and single wavelength. Directionally, the laser are parallel when leaving the laser aperture, and however there is a little divergence of the laser beam. And this explains the ability of the laser to be directed for a long distance and maintain its brightness. It's clear how is the difference between the laser light and the ordinary light. Practically, this is efficient as the laser can be focused to a point. When we are using for a certain purpose, it's working on a point at a convenient working distance from the tissue being irradiated. The third property is the coherence. It is identical amplitude and frequency. مثل ما نشوف هنا الcoherence بالlaser light waves. They have the same phase both longitudinally and transversely. Identical amplitude and frequency in space. While in comparison to the ordinary light نشوف بأنه lack to the coherence between waves. Another property for the laser light is the brightness. This property as a result of the parallelism and collimation of the laser light when it moves through space. It can maintain its concentration and thus the characteristic of high brightness occurs. When the laser become in contact with tissue, four main interactions might be happen. Either the waves are absorbed by the tissues, scattered within the tissues, transmitted, or even reflected away. And this leads to a different mode of interaction. It means that different effects on different tissues. There are many modes of interaction between lasers and tissues. Firstly, the coagulation effect. This mode is appropriate with the soft tissue lasers. when تكون درجة الحرارة اللي هي produced by the laser between 60 to 100 centigrade راح يصير عندي coagulation effect. What's mean by coagulation effect? It means that a reduction in the bleeding and oozing of the lymphatic liquids at the ablated tissue margins during laser ablation, which means during incision or excision procedure. This picture shows the frenectomy, lingual frenectomy, removal of the lingual frenum by using lasers, and here is the coagulation effect is very clear in this image. How that effect result? It results when the heat of the produced by the laser within the range of 60 to 100 centigrade. If the heat produced by the laser higher than 100 centigrade, it means between 100 to 150 centigrade, at that time it occurs vaporization will be occurred for the tissues. Tissue will be liberated. طبعا هذا يحدث عندما نستخدم for example CO2 laser with high intense highly focused radiation produce surface temperature more than 100 centigrade causing tissue vaporization. The third effect is the photoablation, and this occurs when the energy of the laser is used under well control to selectively remove thin layers of a material. During that, it will cause a relatively little thermal damage to the adjacent tissues. إذا الفوتوأبليشن هو thermal damage and thermal effect on the adjacent areas when we need to selectively remove certain layers of a material using the laser. Photodisruption, it means that the application of extremely localized high power pulse lead to generate very high instantaneous electrical field values at the tissue interface that lead to an electrical breakdown, which result into ionization and plasma production, which means إنه high source localized energy applied on a certain area راح يكون هناك high electrical field in the interface that lead to an electrical breakdowns للإيونز الموجودة وتصير حالة الionization and plasma production.